Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be opening up an item for the Corvette. We won't be installing it just yet, but I do want to go through it, tell you why we chose it, and basically, you guys have already seen this teased in the title sequence for the Road to Indy. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and reveal what we have. And what we have here is a Haltech ECM. You guys can read right here. It's the Rebel LS kit, suits the Gen 4. It's got the 6-pin drive-by-wire manual trans EV6 injectors. So I ordered this in November of 2024. I'm not sure exactly when you guys will be seeing this video, but I did save, I think it was $275 off. I think it was roughly 10-15% off for Black Friday, and then I had a coupon that Jags actually took, so they took another $150 off. So I want to say I think I saved between $200 and $300 on the ECM, so that's kind of why I went ahead and grabbed it. And we're not going to be using it right now. And if you guys saw that video kicking off the Indy Airstrip Attack video series, you'll know why. And that is basically because we have the car currently tuned. It's working just fine with the current E40 ECM. You know, everything has been tuned. Everything's working just fine. The injectors we have in there, everything is programmed. The 112mm throttle body, the Kong 5-inch intake, the Kong 2650, then the stock lid with the C&R bricks. So as of right now, the setup's working just fine. But the main crux holding this thing back is the fact that we pretty much can't go any bigger on the injector for E85. We were at 85% on 93. So we currently have some, I think they're either ID 1000s, 950, something like that. I think they're 1000cc. We currently have that running on the stock ECM, but the tuner warned me. He said, if we went any bigger with the E40 ECM, we're going to have scalability issues because just due to the fact that ECM is not meant to program and control such large injectors. And what we have, you guys remember in a video a real long time ago, we have a set of ID 1300s to put in here, but that will have to be after the Haltech install. So, and then there's the auxiliary systems that we have. I have a wideband, I have a fuel pressure gauge, but guess what, guys? All that is tied into my Aeroforce gauge over there off the dashboard. And that is not tied into the stock ECU at all. So, you know, this car doesn't know if it's running out of fuel pressure. It doesn't know if it's running lean. You know, there's no safeties built in with the stock ECU. And the Haltech will at least provide you some safeties that you could set up. And then probably the most stupid thing of the stock computer is the fact we do have a flex fuel sensor in here. It's over there underneath the fuel pressure regulator. We do have that flex fuel sensor in, but guess what? I cannot get that PID to pull up on any scanner besides HP tuners. And so yeah, with those limitations, the safety's not built in. That's why we've been wanting to get rid of the stock ECM for a while, and that's kind of how we ended up here. So, all right, so we've got the seal cut. Let's go ahead and get this thing open. All right, got the box cut open. Go ahead and get this open. This is probably going to be the wiring harness. Yep, very heavy. And here is going to be the ECU. All right, welcome to the Haltech family. Since 1986, blah, blah, blah. Commitment to quality, welcome to the family. All right, that's kind of cool. And here you go. Oh, wow. This thing's actually a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought this, you know, the pictures make it look huge. So here you guys go. Here is the new ECU for the Corvette. And we're going to be basically mounting this how everyone else has. Basically right here underneath the passenger fender. So you're going to have your built-in map sensor. You've got your, I think that's the CAN input on the right. Then you've got your two wiring harnesses that you plug in. There's a USB-C port on there. Then you got your positive and negative battery cables. Here's the rest of your accessories. You got a quick start guide. And is this one going to be taped as well? And here is a sticker from Haltech. Cool. Looks like a USB cable. And I wonder if the Wi-Fi antenna is in here. Oh yeah, it is right here. Okay, so you got your little Wi-Fi antenna. So these do have onboard Wi-Fi. And here are your battery cable connections that we were just talking about. So Haltech, page up for power. All right, cool. Well, that is the ECU. And for the harness, I'm not going to take it apart. If it's in a bag, I'm just going to leave it in the bag because trying to get this stuff all back in here will be kind of impossible. But I do just want to make sure everything is set in there. All right, guys, here is the terminated harness for the Rebel LS. This will plug right into the Haltech, and then the rest of this will basically plug into, you know, the motor. So ignition coil set 1, ignition coil set 2. I've got no idea what that is. Maybe fuel injector harness, knock sensor. And then on the other side, I did see the ECU connectors. So you've got 1, 2, 3. So that's main ECU 1, main ECU 2. Here's that Deutsch connector we were talking about earlier. And I think that Deutsch connector is basically the CAN network. So I think you can plug in an adapter or something like that. Basically allows you to get more inputs and outputs if you run out through this harness. So that's that. And then they give you all kinds of different adapters in here. T56 harness. You've got map sensor, Gen 4 map sensor, EV6 injector harness, Corvette pedal adapter, so that's cool. We do have a Corvette. Here's an oil pressure sensor. There is a drive-by-wire throttle body adapter, so that will plug in. Let's see what else. Delco 4-pin, that will not work. This one would work if you use the LS2 or LS3 alternator, but like I said, we've got the LS9. This is a 2-pin Bosch alternator harness. We're going to check this one out. That might be the one we need. I did see some adapters. I'm not sure what that goes to. Here's a 2-pin Yazaki. Yeah, that's definitely not the alternator that we have. Here is your wideband sensor, and they even have a bung for you. So, oh, it also looks like the IET sensors in there too. And so yeah, that is the main wire harness and all the adapters that we were just kind of telling you about. And this is the big question of the day. Will the Bosch plug into the... I can't remember who manufactures this alternator. I thought it was Bosch. It might not be. Let's get this opened up. We'll see if it'll plug in. All right, well, it looks like it's the same. You know, if we look at connector to connector, it does look the same. So this might plug in. Yeah, that plugged right in. So we could go ahead and try to use this alternator. And as I was talking about earlier, I have my doubts about that alternator being able to be controlled by the Haltech, just due to the fact that none of the stock LS motors, except for the LS9, have that alternator. And even the truck motors, I think a similar alternator was on a truck or Camaro. I'm not sure the harness or the Haltech has the ability to change what kind of driver, what kind of info it can save out that particular pin. I'm kind of worried I might have to, if I want to get rid of that box, I would eat up one of my input or outputs out of the ECM just to control the alternator when, you know, we have an adapter box that's been working fine. As I mentioned, I know 2 or 3 guys that have put this ECU in the car, and some of them are going full aftermarket gauges with like the IC7 or the 10-inch. I think it's the UC10. But some other guys are keeping the stock gauges, and how they kept the stock gauges was just by buying a couple splitters. And these splitters are from Current Performance. You guys can see it says 3 R&D split. That is actually the oil pressure sensor. So we will split the signal coming out of the oil pressure sensor on top of the motor. So that will keep the stock gauge cluster happy, and also the ECU, you know, the Haltech happy as well. The CKP split, this is basically going to split the crankshaft or the camshaft. I believe the website says you could split either one, but we're going to want to split the crankshaft. So again, that's going to send the tach signal basically to the stock gauge cluster, keep that happy, and then you run this blue wire. That'll go over to the Haltech, and that'll have the RPM, you know, signal for the motor. And then we have this third one that is a combination of Current Performance as well as Ballenger Motorsports. So what this is basically a T56 harness. It is a extension harness because the T56 cable they give you is not long enough for a Corvette. You know, most people swapping this is putting it in a traditional car where the transmission is right here, you know, next to the driver. Well, in the Corvette, it's another 4 feet in the back. It's back there by the rear wheels. So you can use this extension from Ballenger Motorsports to plug into the Haltech. That'll keep the Haltech happy. And then the splitter up here, again, is from Current Performance. And that's basically just to split the signal at the back of the transmission to keep the stock ECU happy and the stock car happy. You know, we should be able to get the car up and running, get the stock gauge cluster working, and that's about it. As far as the gauge pod, I'm not sure if we're going to be keeping that. We'll probably be taking that out. And Haltech does sell a little gauge pod, but it's like $400, and it only displays like 2 or 4 lines of code. And I think the one in there I have displays 6, but there is a CAN, I think it's called CAN Connect. So if we keep that 52mm gauge pod, we can get the CAN Connect one, and that will communicate with the Haltech. And I think we can display up to 8 pieces of information. So I don't know, that's something for future me to worry about. But yeah, so basically we're going to be taking the stock harness, the stock engine harness, out of the car. We'll be bundling it up and putting it into the fender. I know that sounds a little weird, but that's basically how everyone that has done this swap with the stock gauges, stock BCM, stock doors, stock windows, keeping all that stuff happy, you have to keep that second engine harness in the car, unfortunately. And so I think people have just been putting it in a, not a Ziploc bag, but, you know, kind of bundling it up and taping up any exposed connectors. That's pretty much, you don't want water to get short circuit anything. So I think that's what we're going to be doing as well, is, you know, taking the car, I'm not taking the engine out or anything, but we might have to drop the exhaust. We might have to take the torque tube plate down, because I do need to get access to that back transmission. And we need to run those wires from the T56 up front to the motor, and then that motor will, and everything will connect over here to the fender. As far as tuning the car, unfortunately, guys, there's no one local that I trust that even will touch a Haltech. Everyone else is like either HB Tuners or Holley, and there's not even a lot of Holley guys around here. I know of 2 or 3. So there's a guy out there called Tuned by Sean. I think I was introduced to him through the 2650 groups, one of those Maggie 2650 groups, and he actually tuned a Rebel LS on a LSA or LS9 setup in a Chevelle or Camaro. It was a classic muscle car, I don't remember. Might have been a Chevelle, I think. And I think that car made like 700 wheels. So he seemed to know, you know, the ins and outs of the Rebel LS, as well as getting a LSA, you know, LS supercharged setup working. And so yeah, so I think he would do pretty well. So yeah, his base price is like $650, and that includes remote, you know, a startup tune, and then I think that includes some road tune as well as some dyno pulls. So I'd have to set up a local shop that can do a remote tune. I have no idea in the Charlotte area. There's probably 1 or 2. All right, guys, I apologize if we've been talking for like 20 minutes. It's probably been at least that, so I apologize again. But we are barely peeling back the layers of this giant onion. You know, this ECU swap to me is going to be harder than building a motor, than swapping an engine, TIG welding magnesium. You know, I think this might be the hardest thing that I've ever done. Just due to the fact that there's no clear instructions. There's not a how-to. Yes, people have done it. People have had to figure stuff out. You can write down notes, but again, it's kind of walking into the unknown, as this is something I've never done before. Heck, I think painting my truck bed was going to be easier than this swap. So that's just kind of like my level of confidence, like motors, painting, TIG welding, electrical. You know, electrical's down at the bottom. Now I can wire a relay, I can make a harness, but you know, custom wiring a car, yeah, that's totally foreign to me. So if you guys want to follow along with this giant project that we're about to take on, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, check out all the links down below. I'll try to include links to the current performance stuff, the 3 adapters that we bought, the T56 harness from Ballenger, as well as the part number for the Gen 4 Rebel LS. Check out all those links down below, and also make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Make sure you guys check out the new merch that we have for the Corvette. I've been talking with a graphic designer, so we should be getting that finalized and up on the website. By the time this video airs, that should all be done. So check out the links down below. It should be on the sidebar as well. Also, it'll be on the website. And that's going to be it. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.